Hello again. The death of people at sea is a tragedy, but hardly an unexpected one when thousands of people feel it worth their while to set out to sea in vessels which are overcrowded and unsuitable for the voyage. The blame for this tragedy lies partly with the governments of Europe who make the journey across the Mediterranean or English Channel such an attractive and potentially profitable one, and also of those mischief makers who meddle in the business under the guise of being charity workers. Those setting out to sea in the way that these would-be immigrants are doing are not fleeing any immediate danger. The ones who cross the Channel heading for this country have passed through perfectly safe European countries in order to reach their embarkation point in northern France. There has been nothing to stop them claiming asylum in Italy or France. Those drowned in the recent disaster in the Mediterranean were almost certainly en route to Britain as their ultimate destination. They came from Pakistan, Afghanistan, Iran, and so on, the very nationalities who tend to hop across the English Channel to Kent. They would, had they landed successfully in Italy, have made their way up through Italy into France and then to Calais. By allowing this racket to continue, the British government and also that of France are actively encouraging such voyages by making them worthwhile for those undertaking them. If there was no prospect at all of anybody being allowed entry to European countries unless they turned up at the borders with correct passports in order to apply for a visa and so on, and if those trying to cross those borders illegally knew they would at once be returned to the last country they left before they were intercepted, then the whole thing would collapse pretty soon and the sea crossings of that kind come to an abrupt halt. For various reasons, I do not believe that the British government wishes to put an end to illegal immigration by this route. Neither does Italy, nor does France. A few decades ago, the borders of Europe were pretty well impregnable. It was almost impossible to travel from one European country to another without the correct documents. In the same way, any illegal immigrants who were picked up were arrested, held in custody, and then ejected from the country. This was the policy of all countries in Europe, including Britain. I know this for an absolute fact because I've seen it happen, and I know that this is how the procedure used to work. Viewers must know very well that in the 1980s and 1990s, very few illegal immigrants would have tried to sail across the English Channel as is being done now on a daily basis. They must know too that people were not moving freely from Greece to Yugoslavia and from there to Italy or Austria before crossing into France. They had to stop at each border and apply for a visa. As somebody who has actually travelled that route overland in the 1970s, I can assure everybody it would have been quite impossible without a passport. And not only that, in addition to the passport, you would need to have a reason for entering. You would need to show that you had sufficient funds before you were allowed into the country, and you would need to look like a bona fide tourist or traveller. If you simply turned up with no money and just because you happened to be drifting across Europe, you would have been refused entry. I dare say that there were a few smugglers and secret agents in those days who used to infiltrate borders informally, but it was not a practice undertaken by tens of thousands each year, as is now the case. It is for this reason that I say that governments are complicit in the trafficking of people in this way. They know that it is happening and do nothing at all to prevent it. They are therefore to blame for tragedies like that which we have seen off the coast of Italy. That countries allow groups like Care for Calais in this country and the Migrant Offshore Aid Station in Malta to operate is also an indication that they are prepared to tolerate this situation. It would be the easiest thing in the world for the British to confiscate the passports of those working for Care for Calais, the so-called charity, and prevent them from getting up to their tricks in France. Until European governments, including our own, take a strong line on the illegal immigration racket, people will continue to cross the ocean in vessels which are not seaworthy or suitable for the purpose. It could be stopped tomorrow if we chose to do so.